All right, hey, what's up, y'all? So I got my phone sitting on a tripod without a freaking mount, and it's a masterful piece of work, the way that I have it balancing there. I'm so impressed with it, so I hope it stays during this whole video. It'll mess me up if it doesn't. All right, so today what I want to talk about is using if-then statements to help you make better decisions in tempting and trying moments. Okay, I think that makes sense. And so if-then statements are really ways to pre-program yourself to make the right decision when you come at this decision moment that normally might be challenging for you. Okay, so we've talked about it in several different videos before this, and maybe you'd want to reference those if it interests you at all. But we've talked about the importance of creating intentions and setting intentions and having a vision statement for yourself, and really just taking some time every day to sit down and think about what it is that you want to bring into your life. Because the more that you can think about what it is that you want and who you want to become and the kind of person that you want to become, the more likely it is that that's going to happen, because at an unconscious level, you're looking for things in your environment to support that thing that you keep saying to yourself. And you know, things start to pop up in your life that support that thing you keep seeing over and over and over and over. And the more that I can program myself with the right information, the more likely it is that I'm going to take an action step towards it, and the more clear my path becomes. Because a lot of times, I think a lot of us stress out about not understanding how to get to where it is that we want, and therefore maybe we shouldn't think about this thing that we think we want. But the reality is that there's no way to know how to get there. Like, that's what we call embracing the wisdom of uncertainty, and understanding that all the adventure and excitement happens in that unknown area. But the more that I think about something, the more clear I get about what it is that I want, the more my action steps start to happen, the more my path starts to unfold, the more synchronicities and coincidences and all these great things start to happen to support this thing that I keep seeing and saying to myself on a regular basis. That also means I have to be really careful about the other things that I say to myself. So if I say negative things to myself, self-defeating talk, you know, and a lot of this happens inadvertently, but what tends to happen if I do that is I start to bring more of that bad stuff into my life, because that tends to be my focus. All right, so anyway, we have several videos where we talk about setting intentions and brainstorming a vision statement for yourself, so that you can sit down every day and program yourself for the things that you want to bring into your life. All right, one of the ways that we do that is by using what's wrong to focus on what's right. So if I can, you know, acknowledge the things that I'm not happy with in my life, that's a good thing, because I don't want to stay there. I can then use those things to flip it into the positive aspect of what it is I really want. So if I can think about something that I'm not happy with, like say it's my body composition, well, that's fine. I don't want to focus on that, because I keep bringing things into my life to support my body composition that I'm not happy with. But then if I can acknowledge that and think to myself, what is it that I really want? What do I want instead? What is the kind of person I want to become, or who is it that I want to be that's different from that, right? That's the positive thing that we're looking for. So another way to do that is to use these if, then, when statements. I think I'm calling it if, then, when, or if, when, then, or you know, whatever. You'll see what I'm talking about. So if I can acknowledge those little sticky points or those hot spots in a day or in my life that like I'm always having a difficult time and I struggle with, then I can pre-program myself to make the right decision in those moments, okay? So it helps to understand this other concept before we make these if-then statements for ourselves. And this is a way that we keep things straight for ourselves, right? So you got to think about what you want daily. We've just talked about that. You got to set intentions. You have to have this vision statement for yourself, or a prayer for yourself. And if you do that every day, your entire life will change, I promise you. Then we want to use this concept that I call using tomorrow for today. I have an old school video where I talk about it, but this is the gist of it right here. When I have an urge or craving or temptation, I want to notice it. And in the noticing, that's extremely powerful, because I give it a natural pause. And with that natural pause, I can be present with it. And then I can think about how this thing is going to make me feel if I do it. And I can think about how I want to feel instead by making the right choice, right? Think about how I'm going to feel after making the right decision. Think about how I'm going to feel after crawling in bed after a day of making good decisions. Think about how I'm going to feel the next morning when I wake up after making those good decisions, right? So that little process right there is powerful. Noticing the urge or craving, pausing with it, thinking about how it's going to make you feel if you do it, thinking about how you want to feel instead when you don't do it and you make the right decision or an optimal decision. Because the truth is that it's not necessarily right or wrong. If you make the bad decision, I don't think that's anywhere near as important as being present and consciously present with the process, right? That's what we're looking for, is a conscious participation in the decision-making process. Chances are over time you're going to make more of the optimal decisions versus the suboptimal, but whether you do or don't, I don't think is anywhere near as important as being present with the decision-making process, being consciously present and engaged in that whole thing, all right? So that's what we call using tomorrow for today. That's a part of this if, then, when statements thing, all right? Now, I want to acknowledge those hot spots. I want to acknowledge those things or those areas or those times a day that are tempting for me. And then I want to write those things down. If I come across this situation, then this is what I'm going to do. And sometimes I can even add to that, replacing it with another activity. All right, so I'm going to give you an example. All right, so this is my personal one, right? Most people that have been following me for any amount of time know that I love to drink. When I say that, I'm not like an alcoholic. Like, I just love to have an afternoon drink, one drink, glass of wine or one White Claw or something like that, right? Or a glass of scotch or whatever. And I also know that when I don't do that, I feel better the next day, I sleep better, I feel better the next day, I'm clear, I'm more vibrant and clean. And I also allow myself to do that here and there. But my goal is during the week, Monday through Friday, no drinks at all. Weekends, I allow myself to enjoy and indulge, right? So during the week, here's my little if-then statement. If it gets to be early afternoon and the craving for a drink hits, I give it natural space, I pause, I be present with it. I think about how it will make me feel, and then I think about how I want to feel instead. I see myself crawling into bed after a day of making good decisions, happy. I see myself waking up the next morning feeling amazing. And then an action that I can replace it with when I have that urge or temptation is I go for a walk, I drink some water, or I make some tea. Now, if I read that to myself every day, most days, then when that situation actually happens, this is embedded in my non-conscious mind, and boom, I pause, I'm present with it, and all this kind of comes up, right? And then most of the time I actually make a good optimal decision. Sometimes I don't, but the fact that I was engaged with the process is what's beneficial, right? Another one that I have for myself, because I, like everybody else, can overdo carbohydrates. You know, we love carbs from real food sources. We think they're extremely healthful, but we have to be strategic with them. And so we want real food carbs from real food sources and measured amounts at the right time of day, right? So, but if you overdo it, then you kind of mess things up a little bit, right? So here's my carb thing. If I'm having dinner and I have the urge to have extra carbs, so this is assuming that I've already done the right thing and measured out my carbs and like I'm kind of done with that, right? Or want to be done with it. So if I'm having dinner and I have the urge to have extra carbs, I give it natural space, I give it a pause, and I'm present with it. I think about how it will make me feel, and I think about how I want to feel instead. I see myself crawling into bed after a day of making good decisions, happy. I see myself waking up the next morning feeling amazing, tight, lean, and mean, because I know that's how I feel when I'm relatively lower carb-ish and I measure out my carbs to half a cup of safe starches and fruit. And in the evening, the next morning, I wake up feeling tight and lean and mean. I can see it and I can feel it and it feels great. My digestion's solid, right? And then to replace it, I say I go for a walk, I make some tea, or I have some more meat, right? Because you can't overdo meat, healthy meats and fats, right? So those are my two big ones. Those are two really good examples. Let me see how much time we're at. We're at about almost 10 minutes. So let me go through an example of a statement that I think is beneficial for most people, especially when it comes to foods and things. So this is an example if-then statement, so kind of a general one. If I have a craving or urge, if I am presented with a situation, I notice the craving, urge, or decision moment, and I celebrate in the noticing. I give it natural space, I give it a pause, and I'm present with it. I think about how I know I will feel if I make a suboptimal choice, and I think about how I will feel after making the optimal choice. I think about how I will feel when crawling into bed after making the optimal choice, and how I feel when I wake up in the morning after making the optimal choice, and then I do something else that is good for me. All right, I think that's a good statement, right? So I have several examples here How much time we got? Well, let me just summarize our process because I'm not going to read through all of them. I am going to share these with you though, all right? This is going to be in a handout. All right, so to summarize this process, number one, you have to have a vision statement for yourself that encompasses everything that you want to become, everything that you want to be, everything you want to bring into your life. And you need to program yourself with that every single morning. And ideally, maybe before you go to bed, and maybe throughout the day too. And the more that you do that, the more that you're going to see magic happening in your life, because you can't help but make better decisions. You can't help to start to see the path unfold in front of you about where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do, right? Also, it's helpful to understand this concept of using tomorrow for today. When I'm in a decision moment, I want to pause with it. Well, first of all, I want to notice the urge or craving or decision moment, whatever it is. Then I want to pause with it. And then I want to think about how I might feel if I do the suboptimal thing, and then how I want to feel if I do the right thing, right? That's using tomorrow for today, right? And then we want to create specific if-then statements around the things that we know that we have problems with, our hot spots, our times of day, our little urges and cravings and temptations and things like that, and come up with a specific verbiage to address or pre-program ourselves to make the right decisions in those moments, right? So, so if this moment hits, then I pause, I think about how it's going to make me feel or how I want to feel instead, and then I replace it with another action. So, you know, ideally that's an extra step, but that's a really good step to do. All right, cool. All right, so I think that's everything that I wanted to say about it. All right, let me know what you think about this process. It's freaking awesome. It works. And again, remember, celebrate in the noticing, celebrate in the conscious participation in the process. Don't get too hung up on whether you actually went for it or not, all right? Because chances are over time you're going to make more better decisions than suboptimal decisions, but what's really important is that you're consciously participating in the decision-making process and you're not on autopilot, okay? Love you guys. Thank you.